Will everyone please take their seats and stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like everyone, if they would, to continue standing in a moment of silence for Mayor Tom Menino, one of the greatest mayors of the Commonwealth and perhaps of the entire United States. Thank you. I think that if we here in Revere, with regard to development, can do as well as Tom Menino did, we'll be giving money back to the ratepayers in this city at some point. For everyone's edification, Brian Arrigo and myself are co-chairs of the Economic Development Committee subcommittee. Mayor Bob Hass is here. Former Mayor Bob Hass is here this evening. Councilor Hass, Steve Morabito, Councilor at Large. Ward 2 City Councilor Ira Novoselsky, Ward 6 Councilor Charles Patch, and Council President Anthony Zambuto. Also in attendance is Mayor Rizzo, John Fester, Director of Economic Development, Frank Stringy, our City Planner, and Paul Rupp, our Development Advisor. So I just have a couple of statements I want to make, and then Brian will make a few statements, and then we'll get on with the beef of the meeting. First of all, I want to commend Mayor Rizzo for the excellent job he did working to bring casino gambling to the city of Revere. I think that we all realize now that that may not happen. It may happen, it may not happen. But at this point here, with rising costs, $6 million increases in our municipal budget for fiscal year 2014 and 2015 subsequently, we have to look to develop commercial property in the city of Revere, and in my opinion, preferably hotels. Although today, again, the mayor and his team did a great job. We did a groundbreaking, a ribbon cutting this morning, rather, for Market Basket. The place has been thronged with people up there ever since it opened last Sunday morning, and I think that's going to have a significant impact, not only on the tax revenue it will bring into the city, but also upgrading that mall, people coming in there and bringing the mall back to what it was perhaps, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago when it first opened, when we had a First National there and Zayres and all the other stores. So, again, I want to commend the mayor and his team for that. Now, I'd like to turn this over now to Brian Arrigo, the co-chairman of the committee, to say a few words. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Co-chairman. And I appreciate everyone's presence today and this evening. And I do want to remind folks that the spirit of why we're here tonight is to discuss a comprehensive plan. And I know at the meeting that we had where I presented this motion, we were told that we would have a comprehensive plan. I don't know if a PowerPoint slide is or slide deck is really what I was kind of thinking about and what the spirit of a comprehensive plan is. I know that comprehensive planning, has been done in many other communities, and it takes a lot of time and effort. And that is really the conversation that I wanted to start. I want us to start thinking about the vision of the city and the long-term goals that we have and the shared values that we have. And, at the last meeting, or at our meeting where I presented this motion, I was told that there would be a comprehensive plan presented, I don't know if I see that, and we can discuss that when we hear from the mayor and from John Festa. But I do want to remind folks that that is the spirit of the motion was to start the conversation over a long-term process, and a process that engages the community, engages businesses and community groups alike. And one thing that I have noticed in kind of doing my own little bit of research, a few cities have been able to do this, and even TND, who is in attendance tonight, has actually they've done a great plan on the Shirley Ave, on Shirley Ave. And I know that took 10 months, and they had a number of meetings, and they engaged the community an awful lot. And I think that's kind of a microcosm of what I think we need to do. And we need to think about this in terms of a 10, 15, 20-year project at the city as a project. And the fact is that I don't know, I know we're going to have a conversation tonight, but I don't know how much has been done in that vein, in the vein of a community action plan or a comprehensive plan. So with that, I look forward to hearing from the mayor, and I look forward to starting the conversation about a long-term vision for the city, and I look forward to having some questions and some points to make about how we can go about that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Members of the City Council, thank you for being here tonight. We're very proud to be here and present the city's vision and what our hard work is starting to produce here in the city with respect to economic development. With all due respect to Co-Chair Arrigo, I'm not sure what type of a plan you would have wanted to be handed tonight. We do have a PowerPoint presentation that's going to highlight a lot of our economic development efforts. As you may know, we have an economic development summit that's coming up on November 21st that actually our last one was so successful that MAPC wanted us to come and prepare a presentation for them so they could pass along the city's perspective on economic development. So it's one of the areas that we're most proud of here in the city right now with respect to local government. And I think as this PowerPoint unfolds, I think the rest of the council will realize that as well. I think before we see it, I don't think there should be any rush to judgment about a plan that we should present or not present. If there is if there's an area of the city or parcels of land that need to be master planned, we're certainly looking at that. TND, in fact, I don't know if any of you had a chance to attend any of those meetings down on Shirley Ave. That was a collaboration between residents, between TND and the city. So we were all actively engaged in that, and I think we're going to eventually see some fruits of our labor down there. So there's a lot of good things that are starting to crop up here in the city of Revere. Just today, we spent 3 hours over at Assembly Row with Mayor Curtatone and his economic development director to learn how they proceeded, and that was a 15-year plan in the making. So we have, and I appreciated Councilor Powers, you acknowledging the city's efforts with respect to the casino. Over 2/3 of our residents came out twice to support it, and unfortunately that didn't go our way, but as I said at the last council meeting, that doesn't mean that's the end of the road for the city. And that was the reason for our visit over to Assembly Road today, was to learn from Somerville. We already have a lot of the infrastructure that Somerville didn't have. They had to fight for that train station on the Orange Line over there. We've got essentially 4 stops, really, if you want to include Suffolk Downs. We've got 4 stops on the Blue Line. So we're already leaps and bounds ahead of the game when it comes to developing that site, if and when that time comes. But there's no doubt that the city has a lot of momentum. I'm not going to stand here for too long and talk about each and every project or each and every parcel, but you've got to remember, our administration hasn't been here for 3 years yet. It'll be 3 years in January. So, you know, I think when you start to see a lot of what has been going on in the city and what's being planned, as I say, November 21st will be our second Economic Development Summit, which is a progress report. We have dozens of developers and investors that will be attending. It will be as good as I thought the last one was. I think this one will be even better. So what I'm asking the council to do is certainly help us in terms of areas of discussion that you think could be fruitful, that, you know, that we could benefit from. And in the meantime, we're going to try and grow our economic development department and initiatives, not necessarily, you know, by employees or anything like that, but by more initiatives like, you know, this Economic Development Summit that we're doing now, and other type of initiatives that I think can be helpful down the road with respect to development. So we've prepared, I think, a very comprehensive and thorough slideshow that we'd like the City Council to look at. There's been an awful lot of thought, as I say, with respect to master planning and, you know, talking about zoning changes that might be beneficial, even in areas like Northgate. This is always going to be a moving target, you know, and you know, so as far as the city's concerned, this is a work in progress. Will continue to be a work in progress, even like any capital plan. You know, you're always revisiting it and updating it, and it's the same thing that we're going to continue to do with respect to economic growth here in the city. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Economic Development Director, John Festa, who has, by the way, I'll say this, John has worked since we were made aware of this meeting that the City Council wanted. I have to say this, John Festa has been working nonstop in putting together a plan that he thought was worthy of the City Council and of our citizens, obviously. But he wanted to put together as thorough of a program as he possibly could to let everybody know what we're doing, because I know there is that concern. And in fact, Councilor Powers, thank you for that moment of silence earlier for Mayor Menino. And I guess just while we're all here together, after the license was granted to the City of Everett, the very next day, it was Mayor Menino who picked up the phone and called me and said, listen, whatever I can do to help in terms of moving forward on that property at Suffolk Downs, I'd be happy to do so, which I thought was just incredible. This was from a man, obviously, who was very sick, and it was from a man who was no longer mayor of the city of Boston, so there was nothing in it for him other than he wanted to reach out and help a neighboring city. So we absolutely lost a great leader today, a great man, and I want to thank you, Councilor, for that moment of silence. It's a big loss, not only to the city of Boston, but to all of us who had the chance to work with him or have a chance to know him. It's, without question, a very big loss. So with that, I'd like to bring up John Festa, our Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the Economic Development Subcommittee, it's an honor for our team to be here tonight to be able to explain, you know, what we've been doing. I think after tonight, I think a lot of answers will be answered to all of you in terms of some of the questions that you may have and what we've been doing. I thought the format tonight, if it's okay, is to really go through the presentation and then have any questions that you may have to answer, because, you know, in your minds, and I can understand that you're asking a lot of questions about a master plan and a strategy, and I think that after tonight you're going to clearly see that from day one we did have a plan and a strategy in place, because we weren't just doing this in a haphazard fashion. So I'd like to start off by going back from the very beginning to give you just a brief overview from the inception of 2012 and 2011 when Mayor Rizzo got elected, where we were then, where we are today, and where we're going into the future, and how thoroughly we looked at all the parcels throughout the whole city of Revere and what we targeted, so that you can see that we did have a strategic approach in mind. So with that, let me start out by saying, first on the agenda, when Mayor Rizzo got elected in 2011, he formulated different committees, as you're all pretty much aware, whether it's public safety, whether it's education, whether it's economic development. Obviously, my portion is the economic development part. During that period, we assembled 8 individuals, and this report is online. By the way, it's too thick to really to hand out, but it is online at your convenience to look at, and I'll be happy to answer any questions pertaining to that report. But basically, these members of the community looked at the city of Revere as a guide to what we can change in the city of Revere, and how we can make the city of Revere better from a lot of different perspectives, whether it's zoning, whether it's, what's the proper development in particular areas. And we looked at 3 areas. We looked at 3 situations. One is to identify, document, and vision. To identify current situations at that time. What is the current situation and where do we go from here? To document opportunities and recommendations of existing policies. What needs to be changed? Do we need overlay districts? Do we need zoning changes? Do we need revitalization in different areas? Do certain areas need more attention than others? And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, is really to have a vision, a long-term goal. We're not looking at this from the perspective of a year or two. We're really looking at this from the perspective of 5 years or more. So we submitted that report on December 27, 2011. And then when Mayor Rizzo put his team together, starting in January, we really started to try to implement, as a guide, and as the mayor stated, things change very quickly. And market demands change, and you have to change with that. So in the economic development, I know you're all aware of that. The financing changes. There's a lot of different elements of development that changes that we have to adapt to, and I think we're doing that. So with that, after we submitted that report, some of the initiatives that are undertaken, I wanted to just mention briefly, because besides getting into the various parcels that we're going to talk about in the presentation, because I think you need to be aware of, it's not just about different parcels, it's also about educating investors to invest in the city of Revere, to provide the information more efficiently and thoroughly, to be able to give them more information so they can invest. And we tried to highlight Revere and its assets in a lot of different fashions, which I will get into very, very shortly. But the first one, as we go down the agenda, is the Priority Development District under Chapter 43D. That is obviously the current TOD site that is underway, the Waterfront Square, which is under the control of Eurus Development. We're very, very excited. We have under construction, you know about this, it's 194 units from Covington on Lot 1. You're going to see in the spring or summer of 2015 on Lot 3, another 220 units. That's going to be under construction. And we're dealing right now with Parcel H, with the hotel and the retail concept. And it seems like that's really coming together. And we're working very diligently to get the hotel component, and we're working with Mr. DeGangi and his team very closely to make that happen. And I know Paul Rupp, our city consultant, is going to be getting into that a little bit later on in the program as well in further detail. Next is the Gateway Planning Initiative. This is an initiative that we've been undertaking, obviously, for gateway communities. The city of Revere is a gateway community, and this pertains to the Shirley Avenue area, as it was targeted. This was an area that the state and the city has worked together, which was mentioned earlier, for future development opportunities. Neighborhood developers are doing 525 Beach Street right now, 35 units, and obviously that area needs an infusion of development, and we're going to concentrate on that area and continue on that area as well. And we're going to continue to look for any initiatives that are out there. Next, as the mayor stated, the previous Economic Development Summit that we had was on October 26 in 2012. We needed to highlight and be more aggressive in showing we know Revere's assets. We know what we have to offer, the proximity to Logan Airport, to Boston. But one of the things that the mayor has stated to myself and to Frank Strange and the Economic Development team is to be aggressive and try to bring in proper developments. When we had this summit, we invited developers all across the country. It was a major success, and the fruits of the success is coming from the Eurovest development, the neighborhood developers, the Harley-Davidson site. These are things that are happening because we highlighted these particular areas, and we got a lot of interest. And I cannot tell you the number of developers that I'm still continually working with on all the properties along Revere Beach and in different areas, which I will get into. But and as the mayor stated, MAPC really thought a lot of the members ended up coming to the summit, thought very highly of it. We made a presentation because we want to help other communities as well. So we were very, very happy with that. Next, as you know, in terms of from a business perspective, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Mayor Rizzo wanted us to enter this Get Your Business Online Challenge. And basically, the purpose of the online challenge is to help Revere businesses. It's not just bringing new businesses in, but what can we do to help businesses expand and be successful in a very competitive market. We found out that if you get your businesses online, that your businesses will grow 40%. And we felt that by not only entering the challenge, but we're doing a very good thing for Revere businesses. One of the things that we were very successful on in that challenge is bringing a lot of people together. The Chamber of Commerce, Revere High School students. We really brought a lot of the individuals working together in a harmonious atmosphere to help businesses. And we're going to continue to do that. And we have a program that is going forward to help businesses continue to grow. By winning the challenge, and we were very excited about that, we received a $50,000 compensation. And we, as you probably know, downstairs we have 2 business kiosks, one on the first floor, one at the Revere Chamber of Commerce facility. What that does is just streamline the process of gathering information. It's our thought process. One of the things that the mayor and his team wants is to be more technologically advanced than other communities. And we want to be able to provide that information so that these investors and these developers can find information out, whether it's coming to the city of Revere, or as I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, our economic development website. It's providing information, easy access. And we think that we're going to definitely bear the fruits of our labor by when you see the 2015 and some of the things that are going to be happening. So we're very excited about that. The next thing that we've been working on, and it goes along with what I just stated in terms of being more technologically advanced, is the community innovations. I think I might have mentioned this before at a previous meeting. This is an initiative and a grant that the mayor is really leading the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with several other communities, Chelsea, Winthrop, and Saugus, to get an application on your cell phone to be able to provide more development opportunities, information about particular sites in the city of Revere, the zoning, and things of that nature. Everything is being done, as you know, on your cell phone today. You can almost gather almost anything on your cell phone. So we're leading the charge in terms of getting this grant and getting this application, and we're hoping to have some good news soon on that particular front. Next, before the mayor got elected, one of the things that was vitally important to him was the Broadway Central Business District. So one of the things that he asked me to do is to be the chairperson of the Broadway Advisory Group. This group he assembled was a group of owners on Broadway, plus with active citizens of the city of Revere, to see, what could we do to really change the whole dynamics of Broadway? How can we do that? What should we do? What do you think are the priorities? We have had businesses on Broadway for 20 years, and I know when I drive down Broadway, and particularly the mayor, one of the things is that we really wanted to change the dynamics on that. So we got a lot of insight, a lot of thoughts and ideas. We did a survey, and to prioritize what the goals and objectives are. And, 2 of the goals, obviously, one of the most important things was the parking situation and obviously public safety. But I'm going to get in a lot of detail on what's going to be happening on Broadway later on in the program as well. But it's really a cohesive group working together, and some very good thoughts and ideas came out of those meetings. We're going to continue to have those meetings and anyone that else wants to get involved with the Broadway initiatives, we're more than happy to welcome, because we want participation. Next on the agenda is the Transformative Development District. This is very interesting. This is something that it's an application from Mass Development. It is there's 4 criteria, and they're targeting blighted areas. So we're targeting monies to go to a particular area in the city of Revere. We're thinking of, right now maybe of the from the lower part of Ocean Avenue, incorporating Shirley Avenue within that district. And right now, the funding is about $15 million. And one of the things the mayor's always stated is we need to be aggressive in trying to get and target any types of monies that we can possibly go after, and to be able to revitalize an area that will stimulate jobs and growth. And we're going to continue to really work and try to. This application has to be in by November 7th. I know that Miles Lane Kennedy and Paul Rupp are working very diligently on the application, along with a lot of different individuals that are being part of the application process. But this is something that is worthwhile and we're pursuing. And my point in saying all these things is I think you need to know it's not just about getting developers. It's the attraction of getting investment, both public and private. Next is I'm very, very excited about the Economic Development Summit that we're having. November 21st at the Showcase Cinemas. As I stated before, the first Economic Development Summit was very successful. I think this one will surpass it. We have put a good agenda together with many initiatives, and we're being even more aggressive with developers across the country. And I think that when you see that summit, you're going to be very, very, very impressed. And that just, again, continues on our progress report of where we are and what incentives we're going after. One of the things in this particular summit that may be a little bit different than the previous one is that we're going to obviously be targeting the hospitality industry. And I'm going to speak about that a little later on as well, in terms of some of the things that we're trying to do to gain further hotels in the city of Revere, because that's very, very important to all of us. Next is it's operational right now, the Economic Development website. We've been working on this for a year and a half. And this is another target area where you can go online and you can get information. You can know about the city review. You can know about the Broadway area, the beach area, Wonderland, Dog Track, what the zoning is. So you don't have to call. You don't have to call our department. You can gather information just by going and researching this. And I know that Bob Button from CDM Smith is going to be making a presentation on this later on as well. And I think when you see it, the elements of it, you're going to be very, very impressed on that. Next, we've been working on citywide infrastructure and services. Obviously, what plays a part in development is infrastructure. You have to have the proper infrastructure in place in order to be able to attract investments. And along with the consent decree that we've been working with, we do have a formula in place for I&I that I think is very appropriate, and something that we are progressing forward with to have the proper infrastructure. Because one of the biggest things that people ask when developers come in and look at different sites, so, what is the water and sewer capacity? What are the different elements in that? Because obviously that comes into a cost factor, which incurs whether they're going to invest or not. And we have we've been, CDM Smith and the City of Revere knows target areas, and we know different areas that we're trying to improve, so that down the road, 2 years, 3 years down the road, there'll be additional investments. And that's going to be a common theme, because everything that we look at is whether it's infrastructure or whether it's zoning, it's how do we get people to invest in the city of Revere. And this is one initiative that is extremely important. Another item, obviously you're well aware of that the new Staff Sergeant James J. Hill School. That's a $42 million infusion of a brand new state-of-the-art facility on Park Avenue that we're very excited about. That's really moving along very, very well, and it's something that provides a good education for the kids in the city of Revere, and that's so important to the administration. Next is obviously, along with that, is the Harry Delarusso Stadium. That's a $7 million infusion of funds. That is a state-of-the-art facility that we need to do things to make sure that the kids in our community have the best facilities possible. And I think when this is done, you're really going to look at it and say it is very, very impressive to be able to give and afford kids and the children in the city of Revere the opportunity that they deserve. So that's moving along very, very well. Obviously, in Broadway improvements and businesses on the roadway, as you've been seeing, there's a lot of different construction going on all along Broadway, which I will get into in the fourth segment of the program. But I'm going to explain from the south side going north, all on Broadway, what we're doing, what the changes are going to occur in 2015, and they are substantial when you hear all the elements of that. Lastly, under this segment is the Broadway Police Station. One of the things that, we, as I stated in the transition report about Broadway, is that public safety was a very key factor. Where the new police station was located, because of the location of that and because of the movement of the old police station, the old police station is, we're going to demo that, but we need a more police presence on Broadway. I think that, some of the businesses, one of the things that was clear in my mind and in the Broadway Advisory Group is that, public safety was a key, is a key element to be able to attract new businesses. And so by adding the new police substation there with its presence, and we're going to try to be even a little bit more aggressive on the patrols, is to make sure that, the patrons and the people that own businesses have the opportunity, the people that can shop and feel comfortable, whatever the time frame may be, not just during the day, but even in the evening hours as well. Next on the agenda, as I stated, as it currently exists today, the economic impact of investments. Roughly, we're at $96.1 million from the developments from Vanguard, Market Basket, Harley-Davidson, 525 Beach Street, and for kids-only after-school program. So from where we started to where we are today, that's a rough estimate as to where we are. But we're also targeting, on the next slide, the economic impact from investments in 2015. We're roughly estimating right now around currently, as of today, 73.3 million. We have the neighborhood developers that are going to be developing on Broadway and Revere. We have TA Partners and Upner Partners, as I stated earlier, that are doing roughly 220 units on Lot 3 of the Waterfront Square development. We have the Washington Avenue development, which is 18 condominiums with retail on the first floor, and that's, I'm being told, is going to be started in early 2015. And then the Mom's Motorcycle is going to be demoing the building across from the neighborhood developers, and that's a significant investment as well. And they're going to be coming in, very, very soon to demo that building. And you probably read about in the papers about the the groundbreaking of the Rumney Flats. That's excluded from the 73.3 million. That's going forward near the BJ site as well. So with that, those are some of the initiatives that we've been doing and we're dealing with. Now let's go into the target areas, and let's start with first of all, the airport corridor. The airport corridor, first of all, as part of our plan and our strategy, when we first started looking at how we can attract new developers, we looked at the entire city of Revere and sat down and said, okay, we're with our team. What are we looking for? What is our vision? The mayor stated that he gave us his opinion on what his initiatives are, what he wants to target. And we were going out and we're trying to do that. The first, as I stated, is a trailer park. The zoning change there was a TED district. And we're targeting a hotel retail. I've been dealing with a number of developers that are looking at that site for a potential boutique-style hotel, and in some form of a retail as well. On the next slide, the Suffolk Downs area. Obviously, we were looking at this as obviously the casino site. When we started in 2012, that was realistic at that time. I'm not sure what may happen with that site in terms of if there's more casino possibilities in there, but we're looking at the perspective that we need to continue, whether that happens or it doesn't happen. That's right now is a PDD1 district, and we're targeting that site. There's so many different uses that could go on that site. Really a master plan. When you talk about master planning, the two sites that really need to be master planned is the Suffolk Downs area and the Wonderland dog track area. And as the mayor stated, we were at Assembly Road this morning and talking to Mayor Curtatone. And that's a pretty big site as well. I mean, it's not, it's a site that we think that is similar in nature to a lot of degrees. We have a public transportation. But my point is, on that site there, we are now going to continue to work very diligently. We talked to owners of Suffolk Downs, and we're going to continue to master plan that site. But there's a number of different options. There may be some zoning changes that may be needed. I know Mr. Stringy will be talking about that later in the program. But we are targeting a mixed-use development on that site. Next is the Shaw site. That's a highway business zone. I've been dealing for about over a year. John McDonald, I think I mentioned this to you before, from Boylston Realty, who represents the owner, Mr. Saratani. We're targeting that as a hotel. There was interest from the Hilton chain to develop a hotel on that site, and we're constantly meeting, Mr. Stringy and I, with developers on that site to try to get a hotel. I mean, we're doing everything we can, and sometimes things take a little bit longer. And I think you'll see something, very, very soon in terms of a commercial development on that site. Next is the Revere Beach Boulevard waterfront sites. First component is from the Elliott Circle to Revere Street area. That's an RC2 district, and there's a lot of potential in that area. And we obviously are again, targeting commercial, hotel, and retail. Now, I've been dealing with two developers right now, dealing with the owner of the Castlemar, trying to combine two parcels to be able to do a boutique-style hotel on there as well. And we're continuing that dialogue as of last Friday. So we're going to continue that. But there's a number of different sites that we're targeting. There's 90 Ocean Ave, 54 Revere Beach Boulevard that we're looking at, 60 Revere Beach Boulevard. We're constantly trying to think of ways how we can combine properties, to be able to have a proper development like a hotel. Let me tell you what one of the problems are. Because you may say to yourself, okay, you're saying all this, and some of it is, a lot of it, we have momentum, and you're going to see a lot more future development. The problem that we've been having a little bit, and I can say this quite honestly, is that a lot of these are different private owners. And when you're dealing with the different private owners, their goal is obviously to sell the property for the most amount of money that they can. And a lot of times, quite honestly, we felt that they were, from our perspective, they were unrealistic. And I think that that's going to change. I think that there was a concept where they felt, maybe, with the possibility of a casino, but there's a lot of private ownerships. But now I think there's more sense of cooperation in terms of being realistic and what their values are, because it's obviously the value of the land is only what you can do with the property. And I feel very, very good that now that we're going to see a little bit more, much more progression in different areas in this particular area, from Elliott Circle to Revere Street. But the one thing I want to mention, we're also targeting, and Mr. Stringy will be talking about this, in that particular area, we call it an innovative district. We think that we should, in that area, we foresee, and our vision is like a seaport district. We foresee hotels, we foresee retail, but not only that, we look at it from the perspective, maybe we call it an innovative district, maybe a cultural center, arts and lofts, a museum, maybe highlighting the Revere Beach's past, but to have something that is a draw, to have people come, not only just for a hotel and overnight, but also for restaurants, but also something that they can look at and something that would be ideal to have the draw. And Mr. Stringy will talk about that, but that's something that we're going to be coming forward with to your honorable body relatively soon for suggestions, thoughts, and ideas on that concept. The next, continuing on the agenda, is the portion on Revere Beach from Revere Street to the Point of Pines area. If you notice on this, we don't have the current zoning because the current zoning is RC2 and the targeted use is residential. The former Ocean Club, we've been dealing with Mr. Tamboni, he from the Patriot Group, and he called Mr. Stringy and I in terms of coming forward and would even and maybe looking at a residential concept on that site. And we should, like I said, there's been dialogue over the last month with him. So we're hopeful that something will go further with that as well, and we're trying to do everything we can to make that happen. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Paul Rupp to talk about the Wonderland TOD and the Wonderland Dog Track. I mentioned from day one, I thought it would be very, very positive, and the mayor said, go for it, and we're trying very hard. Unfortunately, it's taken a long time, is a possibility of having a pier. In the environmental bond bill, there's allocation of X amount of dollars for that, and we're taking the next step. And Paul Rupp has dealt with this for on many, many years, and we're doing everything we can to go to the next step and to see if we can make that a reality. That may take a little bit more time than some of the other things I've been talking about, but I want you all to know that that is not in the back burner. That is in the forefront, because we think that if we can get a pier out there with some nice shops, it can be another draw, another attraction, and maybe in the innovative district as well. Okay. So with that, now I'd like to just turn it over to Paul Rupp to go over some of the issues with the Wonderland TOD and the Wonderland Dog Track.
This is on? Yep. All right. You're all familiar with this project, and if you talk about intensive master planning, I've never seen anything quite like that project, the Wonderland TOD. Back when Governor Romney was in office, we did a very creative and intensive joint planning process involving DCR, involving the MBTA, involving what was then the Office of Commonwealth Development, spread out over the course of a year. We hired architects and planners and created a vision, had public meetings, had a number of planning charrettes, and what that led to was a process where a developer was selected, that's Eurovest, as the master developer, and we set to town to carry it out. The first thing that we did was we fought very hard with then Congressman Markey to get a big slice of the ARA funds to build that garage. We then built the plaza and the pedestrian bridge. We had to fight the MBTA to get them to go along with that project, but we did. All of this took a very number of years to make happen. The end result is that everyone was in consensus on a master plan, and we selected the developer, and the project has begun. The Vanguard, now in construction, topped off the first building last week, I think, or the week before, and the second building is following right along behind it. The first building is expected to come online by the end of the spring or early summer, and the second building some 6 months behind that. Last week, we closed with TA Associates on Parcel 3 of the North Lot, which is adjacent to the Seaside Lot and in back roughly of the police station area. That will be another 230 high-end units. And so, this is on a roll. People are taking notice of that project, and the next element that is in focus is the commercial development at Parcel H, and Mr. DeGangi is working pretty diligently, from what I see, on hotel and office development, perhaps office development on that site, but certainly hotel. The question of the casino, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's sort of hung over as a pall, a lot of these development projects where people waited to see what would happen, and now they're being looked at in their own right. And I think that's, in that sense, is a good thing. People are not pinning other hopes on what the development future is for certain parcels. So that's pretty much the summary. But, we did a pretty aggressive job of attracting public money to attract private investment, and what we ended up with thus far is something like, I think it's $80 million in public money in that little area. Beyond that, there's the development itself. Private development is $500 million. That's pretty significant. John mentioned earlier, I'm going off script here, but John mentioned earlier the transformative development initiative that we're working on now, and that is due next week. So it's been a scramble to make that happen, but we've pulled in neighborhood developers and CAPIC and other parties, and we're doing a sort of concept process there. We'll be seeking money for planning, fairly intensive planning, market studies, and marketing. for what are called hinge areas around this transit-oriented development. And that would be Shirley Avenue, that would be on North Shore Road up to Revere Street, and it should include the Wonderland Marketplace. So there's a lot going on that doesn't necessarily meet the eye. With respect to Wonderland Park, we've long advocated and talked with the ownership about a master plan process there. And I think that also was sort of put on hold by the casino question. But now we have a commitment to go forward with that, and I'm very, very excited about that. We have had visions of a transit connection and a whole lot of development around it. With the speaker's support, Speaker DeLeo's support, and Representative Reinstein, and then Representative Vincent and Senator Petroselli, and I should add Senator McGee, who's co-chair of the Transportation Committee, we were able to put in the transportation bond bill $25 million to build a commuter rail station at Wonderland Park and a connection, an enclosed people mover of some sort between the two. There's only 1,000 feet distance between the commuter rail tracks and Wonderland Station. Now we need to push that forward. A bond bill is one thing. Actual expenditures are another thing, so we'll be on the governor's doorstep after January 1st asking for support for that. That will tremendously open up that entire site, and we think that bodes well for Wonderland Dog Track as well as Wonderland Marketplace. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda is the Squire Road Corridor. We refer to that as, and that's an HB district. And what we targeted in that area, obviously, is that's a major retail, office, commercial component all along that strip. We were very excited this morning. That incorporates Northgate Shopping Center. And we were very excited about the opening of Market Basket because we really feel that that would be a catalyst for other future developments down there. Matter of fact, to the point where I know they're negotiating with Starbucks. Panera Bread has shown interest. So we think that area, the mayor always felt that that area needed an infusion of investment. And before we started talking about looking at an overlay district to be implemented in that area, one of the things with what just occurred today is almost like a stimulus for other investments down there. And we really believe that very soon you're going to see the Northgate Shopping Center change because that really needed an upgrade. And we were trying to, focus our attention, waiting to see what happened with Market Basket. Hopefully, we were hoping that it would open, and it did. And I think you're going to see very soon the fruits of the labors of this catalyst of this investment by Market Basket. And you're going to see some very good things, I really believe, at the Northgate Shopping Center area. Next is the Linden Square, where the old Johnny's Food Master site is. That's where the Harley-Davidson facility is. We knew that area was needed a lot of investment. And, that's an industrial park area. We didn't really target too much there because when we were negotiating with Harley-Davidson, we knew that was coming forward. So we really didn't target that in any other area because we felt very happy with the significant amount of investment that they were going to do. And you're probably aware, you probably drove by there and you see all the improvements that they're making. When they're going to open up, I spoke with a representative from Harley-Davidson, they're going to open up the first week in December. So we're excited about that. And, that whole area is just, it's being upgraded, which we like to see. Next is the Washington Avenue development. As you're probably aware, there was a zoning change that came forward it's now zoned general business for a concept of 18 condominium developments with retail on the first floor. That's an upgrade in that area as well. I mean, you're going to see, if you look at the rendering, you see a beautiful looking building that with a significant amount of investment. So we're like I said, we're trying to target areas that are blighted, that needed significant investment, as I stated earlier. And it's not just one particular area of the city that we're focusing in on. On a daily basis, we're trying to look at it from a total perspective. And one of the things that the mayor stated to me, I know I can say honestly, is that not to just focus in on the beach area, which we are, but to make sure that it's an overall perspective and an overall strategy, and that's what we're going to continuously try to do. The next one is obviously, next slide is Overlook Ridge. That's an overlay district with the component of more residential and hotel, and that's another area that we see for proper investments and more of the commercial component on the hotel we hope for, and we're going to work very diligently to try to make that become a reality as well. Now, as I talked about earlier on the next slide, one of the things that I wanted to get into tonight is the Broadway Central Business District. And the reason why I didn't get into it too much earlier was because, as I stated, Mayor Rizzo, from day one, instructed our team to really focus our attention to try to improve the Broadway area for businesses, for more investment. And in 2015, you're going to see, obviously underway right now, for kids only after school. That building is demolished, and that's underway, so we're excited about that. When you go further north, neighborhood developers will be starting a senior housing project where the former Reardon site is. So we're excited that you're going to have a significant investment, and we're very happy that they're moving forward, and then the funding is there for that. And so that's two areas. As we continue across the street, the Mom's Motorcycle I mentioned, they're going to demo that building and put a significant investment of a new building for their facility as well. So that area there, when you're coming into the city of Revere, you're going to see significant investment opportunities, a significant investment. Also, I talked about one of the things that, that the Broadway Advisory Group and people from the city of Revere that would email me when we did the survey is the parking situation. We need to do something with the parking. And this got delayed a little bit, but we are going to be demoing the old police station. It just took a little bit longer in terms of the actual bid process, but that's going to be demoed. And we're going to have an additional, when that's all said and done, which will be very soon. We're probably going to get anywhere between 41 and 50 parking spaces in that area. Very well done, and to be able to provide additional parking opportunities for vendors, for people coming in that want to shop on Broadway. We need to provide parking. We need to provide public safety. Those are two essential items. Next, as you're probably seeing in front of City Hall, the Plaza bump out. I think we needed to, you're seeing a whole different area to make it more conducive to having people go for breakfast or go for a cup of coffee, to be able to sit out and enjoy, and be able to sit somewhere and look and to be able to enjoy the experience. And I think when you see that done, I think you're going to be very, very impressed in terms of the aesthetics of when you're coming in onto Pleasant Street and when you're coming and looking at City Hall. So that's a significant investment as well. Along with that, we're going to continue the lighting, ornamental lighting from Beach Street to Mountain Ave, to have one of the things that the mayor has been concerned about is lighting, to be able to have people feel safe, but also to have the aesthetics of that, the ornamental lighting. We've got a lot of good praise on the type of lighting that is there, and that is out to bid, and that's going to happen in 2015 as well. Along with that, obviously, with what happened with the tornado, there's going to be a major tree replacement program along Broadway. You're going to have all new trees that are coming in, along with this ornamental lighting, so that it does, when you come down Broadway, it really has that warm feel to it, and so that's going to happen. One of the things that I really feel strongly about is and we're going to be getting into in the year 2015, is the storefront and signage improvement program. The city has a program that you're going to see very soon. Dr. Box building at the corner of Park Avenue. There's 10, 11 stores there. That's all. The facade is all going to change. It really is going to be quite impressive when that's done. I mean, we saw a rendering of what they're doing. They came before site plan review, and that really needed an upgrade. Because as you drive down Broadway, if we can have a proper signage program and have the aesthetics be improved, similar to a degree of a Melrose feel, Not that we're trying to copy that, because we want to have our own, image and our own initiatives. But we do think that the signage program is desperately needed, and the aesthetics and the buildings are desperately needed as well, and that's going to happen. You're going to see significant investment on Broadway in terms of the aesthetics in the various buildings. On the next slide, we're talking a lot about Broadway, and we're focusing a lot of our attention, and there will be a major transition in 2015, which we're excited about, but we just don't want to concentrate on the Broadway area. Yes, we're focusing our attention there as well, but we want to make sure that our next phase, once Broadway gets to a certain point, then we want to start concentrating on the Shirley Avenue area, the Revere Street area, and the Beachmont Square area. We need to, multitask, and we need to go and be aggressive in those areas as well. As I stated, Mayor Rizzo does not want to focus on one area. Even if certain areas are priorities, we need to look at it from an overall perspective, and that's what we're doing. And we're going to continue to focus our efforts on those three areas once we get to a certain point, as I stated, on the Broadway revitalization. And lastly, I'd like to bring up Bob Button from CDM Smith to go over, because it is very important from an economic development perspective, the economic development website that that has been implemented is now functional, that you can really get as I stated earlier, any type of information whatsoever pertaining to the city of Revere. So I'd like to bring Bob Button up from the CDM Smith at this time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, John. I'm just going to move to the computer so we can actually go through the website. It is live right now, www.revereontherise.org. So anyone watching at home or when you go home this evening, you can pull it up online and look at it in more detail. I'd like to just show you quickly some of the main features of the website, if you just bear with me a second. So right now, this is actually live on the World Wide Web, and when folks log on to revereontherise.org, this home page will pop up. It has obviously the image of Revere Beach and all the wonderful residential and business opportunities that are there, as well as a quote from Mayor Rizzo. Across the top of the page, you see these various tabs that will provide people interested in developing in the city with more information about Revere. Some of the history of Revere is available, as well as an overview and profile of the city, some information of historic significance relative to Revere, as well as some cultural and historical information on the city. A lot of information here, but I encourage folks to go ahead and take a look at this as well. In addition, Mr. Festa spoke quite a bit about many of the exciting projects that are ongoing in the city of Revere right now, and this gives folks an opportunity to learn and read more information about the various projects and initiatives that are underway or have been completed in the city. Economic development. This gives you information on the economic development department in the city, many of the accomplishments that have occurred over the last couple of years, and then more information about the activities that are underway within the Economic Development Department. You'll see on the top of the page there are also quick links that allow you to quickly navigate to the various pieces of information in the city. One of the things that's interesting, and John spoke about it before, was the business district survey results. So a lot of the information on what folks from the community want to see on a downtown area is on Broadway is available online for folks to take a look at. In addition, there is a lot of information available, frequently asked questions. If folks have some questions about how to find zoning for their property, how to find out information on permits and those types of things, there's a quick reference guide that's available here on the website for folks. One of the enhancements that we're working on is linking this up to the GIS that was developed by the city, so that there'll be an active live link to parcel data and specific information, and you'll see that come online over the next couple of weeks. Also, there's a link here for news stories that we can use to highlight the successes that folks are having with respect to development in the city and the future potential and the opportunity that there may be for them to become part of the community. And then lastly, detailed information on the folks that are actively involved in the development process here in the city, their names, their phone numbers, and their email address. So I think the website will provide folks from around the country with quite a bit of information and a quick snapshot of what the potential is for economic development in the city. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, lastly, one of the things that we've been working on from day one when Mayor Rizzo ended up taking office is we looked at zoning across the board and really looked at the whole city of Revere and tried to look at the current zoning, made recommendations on what we think we should change, what we shouldn't change, and to see if it's intact. I mean, markets change. We have to change with the markets as well. And I'm going to bring Frank Stringy up to talk about some of the zoning initiatives. But I wanted to really express to each and every one of you here that we looked at the zoning very carefully in every section of the city. And when you saw earlier about what the current zoning is and what we're targeting, that's our vision. That's what we've been working on day in and day out. And you know, we do realize that things change, and so I want to make sure that we can adapt to those changes. And I think you're going to see after Frank talks that some of the things that we're trying to do may stimulate some of your thoughts and ideas that we welcome. So I'd like to bring Frank Stringy up, Director of Community Development, at this time.
Thank you, John. Before I start, I just want to give the council a little update on the Broadway revitalization project. The police station, there was a bid dispute there that delayed the demolition project, but that's been resolved, and the contractor is going to start next week, demolition of the police station. Secondly, the ornamental street lights contract has been awarded. The contractor will be starting his trench work next week for the conduit work for those street lights. So both those projects are starting next week. John did an excellent job of summarizing where we are, where we're going, and zoning that afforded us to accomplish what we want to accomplish. But I want to touch upon the meat of Councilor Rigo's motion, and that's a comprehensive plan. What I'm going to talk about is not dissimilar from a comprehensive plan, because I've worked on a number of them over the years, and we've done it on a citywide basis, and it's an exhaustive process. I've worked with your father on it, and we tirelessly, evenings after evenings, public meetings throughout the city and throughout the neighborhoods. It's a good 2 to 3 year process. But as Paul Rupp alluded and John Fester, we have undertake visioning sessions on certain parts of the city. Waterfront Square was a very time-consuming, exhaustive visioning workshop. It was held to kind of create that zoning district and that overlay district. That's an example of what we want to do in these other districts in the city, and we want to do it on a site-specific basis and master plan specific sites. Not dissimilar from an entire comprehensive plan, but Wonderland Dog Track, a master planning effort for that is going to involve a public participation process, visioning, charrettes, and it will ultimately result in a zoning initiative which will be a blueprint for what we want to see developed there. And the same for Suffolk Downs. The other area we want to concentrate on is the southern end of Revere Beach. My personal vision is to create an arts district on the southern end of Revere Beach and call it the Revere Beach Arts District. That would involve live-work artist studios for artists, writers, composers, choreographers, any type of art, sculptors, and also create uses such as galleries, coffee shops, hotels, restaurants, bring vitality to that end of the beach, make it trendy, make it youthful. I think that will complement the developments going on at Waterfront Square. We have a number of new units that will hopefully attract young professionals there and bring vibrancy back to the beach. And an arts district is exactly what we need. And I'm going to want to work with the City Council on creating the zoning initiatives for an arts district. That's going to require zoning changes, and it's going to be an effort where we'll do a visioning exercise there also to create what we want to see there. So, creation of the Revere Beach Arts District between Shirley Avenue and Elliott Circle. And again, dimensional regulations would have to be modified, revised height limitations and parking. That all will go through the public visioning process, creating the type of streetscape we want, especially on the street level. The Shirley Avenue area, rezoning between Shirley Avenue and B Street blocks. Councilor Novoselsky and I have talked about that. That's an area we want to take another look at and that was part of the Shirley Avenue initiative, planning initiative program, but we want to take it a step further and start talking about rezoning. We want to reevaluate the limited industrial zoning district. Now, that's a district that exists in the city. Mostly it was from the old boatyards in the city that was zoned limited industrial. And now you're seeing what's happening with that zoning. I think we have to reevaluate it, take another look at it. It's not being well received from the residents who live around those areas. We have to reevaluate the plan unit development process. We're seeing plan unit developments are far too freely being used throughout the city, and I think we should restrict those to certain districts. Again, I spoke about the master planning efforts for Wonderland and Suffolk Downs. Those would be major visioning sessions that will involve a lot of public participation. We have to reevaluate our general business district dimensional controls to kind of reduce density for residential development. We saw what happened on the Parkway. That's just one example of what we have to why we have to take a look at the GB district in terms of kind of reducing the residential development there. We're in favor of mixed-use development, but all residential is not the way we want to go in our general business district. We want to create, again, vitality with mixed uses and commercial uses on the first floor and then residences above. So what I'm proposing, in a nutshell, is not very indifferent than what Councilor Rigo envisions. It's just going to be on project-specific sites and districts within the city, but it will include visioning sessions and public participation processes that are similar to a comprehensive plan, but it'll be site-specific. And what you've seen tonight, what John has presented very eloquently, was the fruits of our labor in the past. We did a tremendous amount of work on our zoning ordinance. We've undertaken growth management plans and comprehensive plans in the past, and what has vetted through those processes is what you're seeing tonight. You're starting to see the uses that we encouraged through those rezoning efforts. So we're heading in the right direction. I don't think there's anybody in the city who can say they're not happy with what's going on. We're moving forward, we're growing, and we're growing in the right direction. I think to do a total comprehensive planning effort in the city is kind of going backwards. All due respect, Councilor Rigo, but I agree with your thought process, and it's necessary for these other sites, but we do it on site-specific basis, and we take a long, hard look at those areas and involve the public and undertake design charrettes and envisioning sessions to create plans that are acceptable to the city and that have the support of the entire city for the regrowth of those areas. So my statement is brief, and any questions, obviously.
Thank you, Frank. I'd like to take this opportunity now to open this up to maybe statements or questions by the city councilors on the subcommittee and then the other councilors that are in attendance. So first councilor I'm going to call on is Councilor Patch. He's a member of the committee. Councilor Patch.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mayor.
Only because I have another appointment. If it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, and Councilor Patch, if I could just 30 seconds just to wrap up our particular portion.
Fine.
First off, I just want to thank the members of the council for your indulgence. I know this was a long presentation. Hopefully it covered a lot of areas. I know as I look around, We have obviously at-large councilors, but then we have district councilors here that I think we touched on virtually every single area in the city in terms of where we see potential growth or potential for redevelopment. So, and I also want to thank, we talk about comprehensive plans and we talk about, sometimes what other cities do. Well, you've got to remember, this city, we didn't even have an economic development director until just a few years ago. The staffs and support, whether it's through a redevelopment authority or through large economic development departments, if we had those resources, we'd be leaps and bounds maybe ahead of where we're at. But in spite of not having those resources, just what you see here, I mean, we've got, Paul Rupp and John Fester, Frank Stringy, and Bob Button, who's been a tremendous resource with CDM Smith. With with the resources we have, I think that we have made some great progress. And again, that may seem a little self-serving for me to say that, but I think it's worth noting that, cities and towns, surrounding cities and towns and beyond are noticing some of the good things that are happening here in the city. So I think it's something that we should all be proud of and embrace the hard work of the gentleman that you see behind me. So with that, I want to thank you. I have to run off to another meeting, but I want to thank the City Council for your support in what we've done so far, because we could not have got to the point that we're at right now without City Council support. I know sometimes things we do require zoning changes, or they require approval of special permits, and that can't be done without, obviously, your input and your support. So I want to thank you for supporting our efforts. Everything we do in the best interest of the city, and hoping we grow a vibrant community, and a community, as we always like to say, that's a great place to live, work, and enjoy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Co-Chairman. I really don't have any questions. I've have complete competent faith in the mayor, in the speakers tonight, John Fester, everybody in his committee. As far as my ward, I've seen it come a long way in 7 years, and and I just see bright things in the future. Like I say, it was great to be at the opening ceremony tonight, this morning at the Market Basket. I know a lot of people have been waiting patiently for that to open, and I think it's going to help develop that area in the future. Like I say, Frank, I did have the motion the last meeting that we just got to maybe fix the parking and the in and out of the shopping center. I did put a motion in for the DOT to come down, the engineers, to maybe change the timing of the lights, just for people to get in and out. They could probably use maybe the exit at Pizza Uno and Charger Street more, and kind of block up that little intersection in the middle, because I think that's really causing most of the confusion going in and out. But other than that, I think John, you, Frank, and Paul done a great job. I saw at the beginning, and when I first became a counselor, just about the end of the development of the school department, the new schools, and Mayor Rizzo had to do. We did the last one being built now, and he's concentrating on the commercial and which, you know, I think the city really needs, because with the residential property tax, you know, going up every year, the more commercial taxes we can get could help us. So all I can say is keep up the good work. I have, you know, I think people got to be patient, and it was a disappointment with the casino, but hey, we got to get over it and just look forward and develop. Keep working as hard as you have been, and I could see a bright future for Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patch. Councilor Hess, a member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions pertaining to the investments, Vanguard, Market Basket, et cetera. Of the $96 million, that would not be reflective in this tax rate, only because nothing was built prior to January. Is that correct, Frank? All right, then, if you can't answer that, what economic development do we have coming in the city for 2014? Do you know? On the tax, I'm talking about taxpayers, period. You know.
Well, all of the ones that are submitted.
Yeah.
As I said, you have a $96.1 million ongoing. These are the things that are under construction.
Exactly.
Right. So you're asking the question in terms of the timing aspect of when the actual tax right. revenues will be coming in.
If I'm not mistaken, it has to be completed by January 1st of the
correct. So this is currently in the process now. That's correct. So the realization of the full tax revenue won't be until the completion. Correct.
Right.
So that won't be until if you go down each one will be completed at various times. But we wanted to show just what the investment would be. It would be in each year, because the question was like, where were we going? How right. You know, from the beginning to where we are today. I think that was the concern, and where we're going into the future. So, but to answer your question, they come at different times. So I don't know the actual completion dates of each one. I can get back to you on that.
No, because Andy Iavana is coming up next Monday,
okay,
so
fine.
I'll ask him that particular question.
Great.
And also, as far as the great pair that we had, and you know, I had a study conducted on that. I put a motion in last year, and I'm wondering what's the status of that, Paul.
We talked about the transportation bond earlier, and somebody, I'm not sure who, referenced the environmental bond.
Right.
Again, with the speaker's help, with Representative Vincent, Representative Reinstein, and with Senator McGee's assistant, Senator Petroselli, of course, there is a line item in the bond bill for $10 million for a pier at the beach, which is based on some engineering studies that we had done and some preliminary planning. Again, it's making that happen. That's the next step. But we're in there. There's a placeholder. We are waiting to see what comes out of the election next week, because there's talk of the Seaport bond moving from one place to another in state government. Who's going to chair it? Who's going to run it? All of that has yet to be shaken out. I spoke with Seaport staff yesterday, and there's no. They usually do semi-annual meetings at which they approve projects. When they have a semi-annual meeting, we will get in line. We will be in line to be on their agenda, and it'll be, you know, a first phase engineering and so forth. We have a lot of questions we have to work out as to long-term maintenance, operations, insurance, all of that. But we're very much in line.
In my last question is, we keep on comparing ourselves, our Broadway, to Melrose. Broadway will never become a Melrose. I hope you understand that. You need parking by eminent domain. We have to take some parking in back of, as you mentioned, Dr. Box, all the way up. All right? People will not park down the Sprague Street. You know, there's cars being broken into. when I was up here, my wife's car was stolen there, so people are fearful of parking down there. So I think we need some parking. And I mentioned at one of the meetings that you had, John, et cetera, and hopefully they do this beautification problem, but they don't take care of the parking. That's the main problem.
Council, I definitely concur with you. I agree with that. The parking situation is a key element, and that's what we're trying to rectify, because that is an important feature of Broadway. We're not, but I just want to make sure we're clear. When I refer, because I do refer sometimes to Melrose, we're not trying to copy Melrose, but what we're trying to do is when you drive down Broadway, we just look at the aesthetics of the buildings, and we just, on Broadway right now, and we're just not happy with it. So we're trying to see if we can have our own identity, our own theme, not copy Melrose, but just to have the improvements. So when you drive down there, you have a little bit of conformity, and you're not having a total variation of signage and aesthetics on various buildings, so that when you do go down there, it's something that we want to look back at this and we can be proud of, you know. And so when we look at Melrose, because we hear a lot of positives, and when we drive, you know, I've been there a number of times. We never want to copy them, but I think that we can learn by their approach. If they're successful, I want to know how they're being successful and what we can learn from that so that we can apply it here. I'm always willing to do that, because bottom line is we want things to happen, and we're here to make it happen. So that's what when I say about Melrose, that's what I mean.
Right, and that's basically my whole point, okay? When you drive down Broadway now, it looks raggedy, you know, Frank?
Yeah, well, let's touch upon parking a little bit, because we're going to see a big increase in available parking spaces on Broadway, because with the demolition of the police station, we're going to obtain 40 parking spaces there, additional municipal parking lot, which is close to downtown, will be utilized. With the new school, we have 112 to 100, I think it's 120 parking spaces. We're going to have a pedestrian walkway linking that parking lot directly to Broadway behind the fire station. So there's close to 140 parking spaces that will be online in 2015. And they're very close to the downtown area, obviously a lot closer than Sprague Street.
Right.
So that's a plus. And we're still looking at acquiring those parcels behind Dr. Box and tying into Foster Street for creation of parking there. You can get another 70 parking spaces there if you acquire all those land parcels. So
that's what you need.
That's what we need.
Without question.
Right in the downtown, right in the central, gut of the downtown area.
Thank you. Thank you, John, Frank, and Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman Arrigo. Actually, I think this is a great opportunity for us to air some of the things out that we've been thinking about and that we haven't heard about, that we want to touch base with our own. I do have a lot of questions, so I just want you to bear with me, and I don't expect them to be answered right now, but if you can take notes and answer them as we go along, you know, later on, I would appreciate it so we don't spend too much time. First of all, I want to thank everybody, TND and Frank and the mayor, for all the work that they're doing down at Shirley Ave on the Gateway. We've been working on that for numerous years, even before TND. We had a charrette down there and a Gateway project, and TND is picking that up, so you know, I thank them for that. And I know Frank and I have been talking about standardization of signage and storefronts, even back when I was chairman of the planning board 20 years ago. So, you know, it takes time to do things, and things have to just hit at the right time. And I think we're at the right time. We have the right mayor on board to move it along. We have Frank and John and what's your name again, pal? Oh. You know I'm only kidding. To work on nice projects for the city of Revere. Actually, we go back 40 years. So there's information on the Seratani site. You know, that's still moving along. There's one thing that hasn't been mentioned, and I know it has to do with Julie DeMauro and Safe Routes walking to school for kids. I want to know if anybody knows anything what the status is with MassDOT. So, you know, it's trying to make things move along there. I did have a question on the airport corridor on the TED districts, and the tanks from Irving and Global were highlighted, and I was wondering if there was any sign that those would be eliminated, that was put in that highlighted area. I wanted to know if there was a movement on the Cove property, which is in Councilor Powers' neighborhood, where the Cove was ripped down and now it's wide open, and it's right behind the Waterfront Square property. You answered my question on the Ocean Club, what's going on with the property there. As far as the Castlemar and with the Boutique Hotel and Shipwreck, I just want to make sure that the sewage mitigation that the City Council put in on the special permit to go down Elliott Road, underneath the railroad tracks, out to North Shore Road is still there. And I know there was $325,000 hits in my mind that was put aside by the project, but I'm sure it's going to be closer to $500,000 now by the time we think about doing anything. We talked about the transportation bond bill, and one of the things that was in it this year was the Route 1 corridor and widening the road. And, you know, God bless everybody that works on it, but in the legislature that puts the money up for us. But if we don't get the right governor in there, we're not going to see anything in T-bills. Nothing. You know, even on the pier. So, you know, it's something that we have to hope whatever governor comes in, that they pursue, you know, what we want and what needs to be done. I was wondering if anybody knew the total number of units that were going to be in the Waterfront Square in that TOD project. And I was wondering if across the street, the grass strip between Ocean Ave and the Boulevard, if that was going to become a passive park with that walkway, if that was part of the construction of the TOD, or is that I know we talked about it before with Julia O'Brien many years ago, but it doesn't seem to be going beyond Chester Street. So that's another issue. The neighborhood development districts, you know, again, thanks to TND and the community development and the mayor for those projects. One thing with CDM Smith, the targets that I'm looking at, the Elliott Road project, as far as the county ditch along Standish Road, Standish Road, the ditch between Saratani's property, going out to the MBTA tracks, excuse me, and going north and south behind the Garfield School, up between the bridge and Revere Beach Station. Still looking about drainage on the hill coming down from Arlington Ave, Florence Ave, Walnut Ave. See what we have to do up there to try and stop that land from eroding up on Walnut Ave. It's very bad, and I know Bob Button and I spoke about it today, and he was going to go look at some things up there. So other than that, you got my list. Take it from there, guys. You know, and you know, whatever you can answer me, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you for the opportunity and the latitude.
You're entirely welcome. And by virtue of the fact that Councillor Zambuto, being Councillor President, is a member of the committee, I think I overlooked that, and I'm going to call on Councillor Zambuto now. Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. Thank you to both my co-chairs of the Economic Development Committee. I want to thank the mayor and his administration for a comprehensive presentation here tonight. You know, a lot of us know what's going on in economic development in the city, but the citizens don't really know a lot about what's going on, and I think that we've highlighted tonight a lot of the little gems that are out there. Now, you know, I spend a lot of time talking to our Economic Development Director, John Festa, who's doing a fantastic job, along with Frank Stringy and Paul Rupp. And I also want to thank Bob Button from CDM Smith for helping us out with the website and all the other things he does for us. Gets it gets overlooked and it's unnoticed, but not by me. I'm glad that the Joe DeGanges are here tonight, the DeGange family's here tonight, because they're a big part of our economic development in the city right now. That $500 million project on the beach that's under his control is moving along, and it's quietly moving along, and people are seeing these things coming up out of the ground, and I'm looking forward to the hotel and the high-end restaurants that we're going to be expecting soon down there. But let's not overlook the fact that it is a $500 million project down there. And I might mention that the TOD projects in the state were started by my good friend Mitt Romney, who was had the vision, and it was picked up later, and so we got to give credit to where credit's due. And but the bottom line here is we've got, we had an exciting morning this morning. We opened Market Basket. And how did we get Market Basket here? We got Market Basket here because we offered a TIF, tax increment and financing plan, to bring them here. And some people, made comments about corporate welfare and so forth. And we've already seen the fruits of a Market Basket in Revere and what it's done. We've got Panera Bread and Starbucks knocking down the doors to come to that mall. That mall will be revitalized. And that's what an economic target area is, and that's what we need to keep doing and looking for here. And when it's appropriate, we offer. But more importantly than that, it sends a message that we can even bring a company that's as successful as Market Basket to a site that we need revitalized with a tax increment financing plan. We're not afraid to do that. That sends a big message to developers out there. I'm excited about the upcoming Economic Development Summit because I was at the last one. It was truly impressive, and I'm sure this one will be even better. And I met a lot of interesting people this morning at the Market Basket opening, not just Market Basket people, but developers and people that were excited to see that Revere's on the move. And the word is out there. And this was a pretty, I'm truly excited about Linden Square and the Harley-Davidson $20 million project there. It already looks magnificent, and that just transforms that area from what it was to really a magnificent thing. So there's so much great stuff happening here. And there was a lot of talk when we didn't get the casino, and a lot of bickering and people saying that, oh, what do we do now? And, and we always said that the casino was Plan B. And we had plenty in the pipeline that was Plan A. And I think we saw tonight what Plan A has been happening, what's been going on for the last couple of years in this city. And I truly think that, and we're all part of it. And we shouldn't just give credit to the mayor. We should all take pleasure in how our city is on the move here, and we're all a part of it. And I hope we can be a bigger part of it when appropriate. We can offer TIFs and things like that, or zoning changes when appropriate to make the things we want to happen in the areas we want to happen. So I'm excited. I've been excited. I'm a glass half full guy, and the evidence is on the table here tonight that we should all be excited about the future of Revere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council President Zambuto. Councilman Morabito?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have many questions tonight. First, I'm going to start off by saying you targeted many areas of development tonight in your presentation. I want to start off with most of the plans I've seen before. It's not foreign to me. So I'm just curious. I know it was dependent upon, I felt it was dependent upon whether we got the license for the casino or not. So is there a timeline for any of these projects? I know some have already started or begun, but for the most part, they haven't. Is there a timeline? Is it reliant on some specific factor, or?
There isn't a specific timeline. We sometimes, my own personality, it's not moving as fast as I like sometimes. The market really kind of dictates what happens. The financing opportunities dictates what happens. The owner's feeling of what the value of their land. I think they're now more realistic. I do agree with you. I think there was a thought process where, with the possibility of the gaming facility coming, that their values would increase so substantially. And but now I think, not that it's diminishing, but I think it's going to where the market should be. And I think that's why I think you're going to see more things happen. So in terms of a time frame, depending on the area that we're looking at, like we're being very aggressive. I'll give you an example of one. We're being very, very aggressive on the Shaw site. And, and believe me when I tell you there's been so much interest on that site from different people. And it's been extremely frustrating because, some developers that, and we obviously, as you can see in our presentation, we're targeting a hotel for that site. So we're trying to be very, very aggressive on that site. And negotiations are still going on that site. And even to the point, I'll give you another example. The Castlemont site, I'm working with a developer now to assemble that site with the Mr. Padova site, which they're talking about, for a boutique-style hotel. So my point is that sometimes I feel like when I come up and I explain this to you, I don't want it to just be words. It has to, at some point, we wanted to make this become a reality. And believe me, every day we try to be aggressive in offering certain, ideas and thoughts and ways to get that initial investment. So hopefully I'm answering your question. It depends on the area. It depends on the, at some point we're going to have to bring some of these owners together and, really be aggressive in terms of, what we can do to maximize and to make a go forward and because if sometimes one particular site, if the land value wasn't so high, there'd be a hotel there already. So, and I talked to, quite honestly, Council, to answer your question also, I talked to Jay Ash from Chelsea because there's, a hotel, a couple of hotels going there as well. And he's a good friend to the city of Revere. And I talked to him quite a bit. And some of the differences is that I wish we had some city-owned land that we could move forward. Dealing with private owners are a little difficult, but not, we're going to go forward. We'll make it happen. It'll happen. It's just a matter of it's frustrating sometimes to, on our time frame, because I get to the point where, we're here to make things happen.
Thanks. Now, on timing, what about the purple line? Is that a definite, or what's the process for that to get a purple line? I heard there was commuter line, the purple commuter train.
It's a long walk. First step was concept. Second step is being in the bond bill. Third step is using all our political clout to work with the governor and the new governor, the new Secretary of Transportation, and everybody, and work with the ownership of Wonderland Dog Track to say this is a place that makes sense, and that they're probably going to turn around and say they want some corporate support for the project. That's the new trend. So that will be Suffolk Downs having to do that. If they want to see that site fully developed, they'll work with us.
So there's already conversation going on with the state?
There's many conversations at the state level. Now it will shift into conversation with three parties.
Okay, I have two more questions. With so much focus on within close proximity of Northgate Plaza, with the flats apartments going there, are there plans to expand Route 1? Because that's something that's going to set back economic development.
10 years ago.
That's pretty much did all my last response. I mean, there is a tip that's just been published by the state, and Revere and Saugus and Malden jointly petitioned that project to be on the tip, even though the speaker worked very hard to get an allocation in the bond bill to finish the design. We have to keep pushing. Every time and there is a tip or an amendment or whatever, we keep filing comments, and we're about to do that next week. again, it's going to take a political coalition, and we've been building that actually with the North Shore Alliance for Economic Development at Salem State, trying to draw people in. They're planning a transportation summit in January because that corridor affects everybody up to Route 95. I mean, people have to, from all those communities, have to deal with this on a daily basis. So that's what we're doing. It's not easy. The TIP process is flawed, and many people now recognize that. There's a newly appointed project selection commission that we have communicated with. Again, we're going to see changes in state government. We're going to have to be on top of those. We have to keep pushing the agenda forward.
And another area of concern is the trailer park area, development there. Legality issues in regards to the residents who reside there now.
Yes, matter of fact, I received some phone calls from different individuals about concerns of that process. Even though we're targeting that area for hotel retail, there would be a process in terms that they would have to follow in terms of any type of relocation. It's not. I alleviated some concerns because the thought process was that, geez, the development's going to come in and we're going to have to be moved overnight. That doesn't work like that. There's a due diligence period. There's a permitting period. There's going to be a great deal of time for relocation of the of those residents. Matter of fact, I even met with Mr. Rapucci from CAPIC, and we met with various leaders throughout the city of Revere that were concerned about that. And we assured them that the process, once it gets to the past the due diligence phase, and once it gets to the site plan review phase, then I think there'll be more dialogue in terms of what's the proper measures that we need to take for relocations, because that is a concern. We don't want to displace anyone, but we won't, and then again, we want to make sure that we continue on our development. But there'll be a clear time frame and plenty of time for them to be able to, if it goes forward on this, which we hope that it will go forward at some point in time, to be able to relocate the people that are living in that current area.
Makes sense. And one more question. In regards to the signage program, the Broadway initiative, how much, that's state funded? Was that the grant, that was a grant, right?
Yes.
How, federal grant? And how much was the grant?
Yeah, we allocated $175,000.
$175. Now, is this a continuing grant each year, or?
We will include it in subsequent years in our community development block grant application.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys for coming up here. I appreciate it. And I commend the chairman for having this meeting, because I think the main thing about the comprehensive part of planning is we need to understand that in order to do anything, we need an action plan. And I think the issue is we need to set a timeline. We need to schedule something. And I understand finance is always an issue. But I think we have some good ideas. And I look forward to another meeting where we can offer our ideas to what we would like to see.
Thank you, Councilor Morabito. I think my co-chair, Councilor Arrigo, would like to speak now and make some statements and perhaps has some questions. Thank you. Councilor Arrigo.
Thank you, Co-Chairman Powers. I just wanted to go back to my original statements and the kind of spirit of the motion that I presented was a comprehensive plan. And I know Frank had touched on it a little bit, and this is a comprehensive presentation. I struggle with the fact that there are no action steps, there are no timelines, there are no really detailed pieces of information. And to be honest, a lot of the information is stuff that we've seen already, that we've known already. And I think even for residents, they'd have to be living under a rock not to know some of the stuff that's been going on, to notice what's happening around the city. And I understand that it is a long process, and the comprehensive planning process is, inherently a long and tedious process, and I get that. I think that it's something that we need. We haven't had a comprehensive plan in the city. The way that we can look at best practices and look at what some other communities have done, incorporate our own ideas. We have our own people, we have our own ideas, and we could really be able to develop a strong plan that would take us through the next generation. And when I think about it, when I think about comprehensive planning and the priority of it, I'm befuddled when I hear that the casino wasn't Plan A. Because at the end of the day, you look at the number of hours and hundreds of, maybe thousands of hours that were spent on the casino, 13 or 14 public meetings. Anyone who lived in the city could tell you that it was a priority of everybody here. It was priority A1. And I find it very difficult to hear that it was not. Because at the end of the day, I've discussed the idea of a comprehensive plan with folks from the administration. I discussed it in December 2011. And there was pushback, and I get it because there is a lot of time and effort that needs to be taken into do that. But the time and effort that we put into the casino, mind you, and the 2 or 3 years that it would take and the number of meetings that it took to get outreach from people and to hear people's ideas, we could have been doing a similar thing in a comprehensive plan. That is, that's what's frustrating for me, is that the fact that we had an opportunity and we didn't take it, and now, we have to look at, we need a plan, we need action steps. I appreciate the work that goes into, and I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, I understand that. And I'm glad that the mayor, and John, you mentioned Somerville, you've mentioned it before. I've worked there. I understand how they work. I understand what it takes to get to be a great city the way that they are. And it takes vision, it takes the ability to say that we're going to put our resources towards a long-term project. And at the end of the day, you want to develop a long-term strategy that incorporates how people feel about the city. It incorporates how cultural ideas and resources. It incorporates land use and housing and transportation, all the things that we've touched on a little bit, but we've touched on them. We haven't really done the deep dive that I think we need to do in order to be competitive with communities like Chelsea, even like Somerville, like Cambridge. If we're going to get to that level, we need to have the substance to back it up. And I don't know if we're there yet. And I will take a little bit. I appreciate Frank, acknowledging the fact that the comprehensive plan is something that we should be thinking about, or we can have the discussion about whether or not that's the right path for the city. But I can't see looking at parcels piece by piece as being a good way of doing business. And I understand that that's what we've done for the last 40, 50 years. That's what we've done previously. We need to get people engaged. We need to get people involved. We need to have the type of meetings that we had on the casino about the city of Revere and about the vision of the city and where people want the city to go. What do they like about the city? What don't they like about the city? What city services can we make better? And how do all of the things that we talk about, and economic development is just one little piece of that. How are our zoning laws, and how is our housing and we're beyond capacity housing-wise, and how do our cultural resources really take hold, and how do we plan out what we're doing and what we're about, and how do we market the city? I would like to, and I'm glad that Councilor Morabito had mentioned maybe having this discussion more often, and maybe having a follow-up. Again, I think that if you look at the community action plan that was done by T&D, and if you look at the Somerville comprehensive plan, which is 150 pages, took 3 years to put together. They got input from, I think, maybe 400 residents, and they had multiple visioning sessions about the entire city. I think that's the path that we would see is the best practice for the city. And that's the best practice, I think, Commonwealth and nationwide, is that you look at not just a parcel of land or a section of the city, but you look at the city as a whole, and how do you incorporate all of these different factors and items that are floating out there that are pretty much siloed, for lack of a better term, and how do we get people to start to talk about a more comprehensive and sustainable kind of plan for the city? But I do look forward to maybe having further conversations, and I will turn it over to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rigo. I'd like to end off what my vision is, immediate vision for development in the city of Revere. I think we all know that our FY14 budget increased by $6 million. Our FY15 budget increased by $6 million. And I think we all did put an awful lot of work, particularly on the part of the administration, and we looked forward to that casino. We know that casino, for all practical purposes, is dead in the water. Could it come to Revere down the road, giving some different court actions or whatever may happen? Sure it could. But I don't think we can pin our hopes on that. I think our hopes have to be pinned on the immediate future. I'll give you one glaring example of one of the reasons we need monies in this city. We've got a water and sewer department. 5 guys down there, okay? We had multiple water breaks down on the Dunn Road, Sagamore Street area this past week. I heard the other day on one of the news stations, I think it was WHDH, that in this country there are so many old water pipes, probably 50, 60, 70 years old, that it would take $1 trillion to replace or repair all of them to a condition where they would be suitable. We have a good portion of that in the city, so we have to bring in revenues. Now, one of the first things that comes to my mind, and it has been for quite some time now, and I think Paul Rupp touched on it this evening, is that commuter station, the $25 million in the bond bill. I think we have to work diligently to get our elected officials, whoever the new governor may be, whoever may have connections to the new governor, to get that commuter station built on the back of Wonderland, because that's going to do several things. First of all, it's going to make that area attractive to developers. Secondly, it's going to mitigate traffic on 1A. Now, we all know Mr. DeGangi's project down there, going along 900 units eventually, probably 1,500 to 2,000 cars on Ocean Avenue. There needs to be a way to bring people off of that 1A corridor that might be going to the airport, that might be going to Boston, wherever they're going, to use a commuter rail that would be at the back of Wonderland, where they could walk over in that enclosed walkway we talk about to get on the Blue Line. That's so important to development in the city. I think that the Lido site particularly, perfect area for a hotel. I mean, we're so close to Logan Airport, and then I hear about hotels being built in Chelsea and Medford. I was over at Paul Donato's fundraiser last week, and they're talking about hotels in Malden, Medford, additional hotels. We have the perfect area here. The Shaw's site, absolutely perfect for a hotel. And even if that casino is built in Everett, that Shaw's site is only 5 miles away by coach or van or however people would travel. We have the trailer park site, and that's something that Council Morabito mentioned. Ideal for development. And I know that Mr. Centipane, who has some controlling interest in that, has agreements with some of the people down there, owns a lot of those trailers. So, I mean, that could be cleaned up real quick, in my opinion, according to Mr. Centipane. So I think it's important that we look in these areas. The other area we need to look in is the Squire Road area. We need to have some type of resource coming from the state government, federal government, wherever it may be, to clean that area up, to allow traffic to get out of there more easily. We've got 261 units going in there, okay? That's major. Along with the Demoulas, we want development in there. We want Starbucks in there. We want Panera Bread in there. People have to be able to get there. And the only way they're going to get there is if we rectify the problems on Squire Road, rectify the problems on 1A, give the people down in the 1A area, Point of Pines, Oak Island, Lower Revere Street, give them some relief down there with regard to traffic, and also bring in development into the city. And I want to thank all of you gentlemen for coming here this evening, Mr. Festa, Mr. Rupp, Mr. Stringy, Bob Button, and all of my colleagues on the City Council, Councilor Zambuto, Councilor Patch, Councilor Novoselsky, Councilor Haas, Councilor Morabito, and the co-chairman, Councilor Brian Arrigo. I think this is a step in the right direction. I think we need more of these meetings, and we have to keep this thing moving ahead in a positive direction. Thank you and good evening.